Hey everybody, thanks for joining us here. We have Sophia here who is going to, she's created this PowerPoint presentation and we're going to begin. Sophia, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Greg?
Not bad, not bad. I wonder why people like always start their conversations like that. It's almost like, and I purposely try not to, but I just can't help myself. It's nice to know how people are, just to make sure you're in the right frame of mind to look into something like this because this can be very subjective, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah.
I think so too. I think that's why this is going to be a discussion, and I'm looking forward to this. Thank you for putting this whole thing up here. I really appreciate that. I know you put in a lot of work on this, and let's get right into it. We are looking at slide number 1, David's handwriting analysis.
Okay.
All right, and I'm going to go to slide number 2. See if I
Are
can
we
make
live
this.
right now?
We are live right now. We
I'm
are
trying to
absolutely
find
live.
the video
So you want to
so I can
go
follow
to
along.
the gray stage, YouTube,
Oh, here we go.
and
Yay.
hopefully it should be. I tried to set it up so that it's the first one when you put in live. My cat's going to come join us, I think. Come on. Gang's all here. All the troublemakers on one line. Okay, so let me know if you can see what's up on the screen now. Looks like slide number 2. We're looking at print writing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Um, David's handwriting, and we're looking at samples from the notebook that was taken by the BCA. It was mostly print writing, which is generally people who print have put up barriers to keep the world from getting to know them. They do not easily express their innermost feelings. People who print take longer to experience intimacy and tend to have strong external protective mental shield that is often seen as confidence. Now, it is estimated that over half the men in the United States prefer to print rather than write in cursive. And the next slide will show a sample of that. But
Okay.
you'll see that it's pretty consistent throughout the notebook and other samples that were photographed.
And this is from David, this from the notebook, right? The
Mm-hmm.
59-page notebook found in the office bedroom.
Yes, and I think I might have cropped this particular page.
Yeah, it's definitely worth looking at. Um, so what do you see here? I mean, is that pretty much what we're talking about? A lot of scribble, a lot of I can't tell. I wonder, is this pencil or pen too? I never really.
I think it's like a Bic pen,
Okay, the same one
and
that was found next to the notepad.
mhm. And you'll see that there is printing, and then there's a little bit of cursive, and then printing again. So I think it was mainly done for speed because a lot of his writing is pretty fast.
Okay.
Um, the normal upper zone, uh, which is the realm of the mind and the guardian of the spiritual aspirations. With the normal upper zone, you will see the intellect, imagination, illusion, fantasy, and the drive for power. Well-proportioned loops, stems, and sensibly placed eye dots and T-bars reveal mental capacity and alertness. That's an important sentence right there
Because that.
because a lot of
Hmm.
people were saying that he was either stoned or drunk all the time, an alcoholic, but you don't see well-proportioned T-zones or T-bars and eye dots if you are high or if you're an alcoholic. So
Interesting.
at the end of the slide
Hmm.
show, you'll see that I added samples from other people who are known alcoholics or drug users. And so you'll see a difference. in this slide right here, you'll see the normal upper zones. You'll also see the I dots and the T bars. So,
Okay. I'm going to move
I'm
on
going to move
to
to the next one.
Mhm.
Normal middle zone. This is the zone that shows what the writer thinks of himself and his role in life and how he can be expected to project this image onto others, and it's expressed in the middle zone. This area reveals the quality and consistency of effort towards conscious pursuit of goals. The middle zone emphasis is upon social and work and shows actual progression into the environment. Medium height and well balanced in other zones and well formed letters indicate wholesome self-confidence and sensible adjustment to life. And it's just showing the middle zone, which is the A, the E's, lowercase e's, I-S, I-T.
Which is what we're looking at here.
Is the H and the is, that loop would be an upper zone.
Which one?
So for the loops on the H, that's an upper zone. The D loop is an upper zone. So a common middle zone would be the I's, the E, O, in video. Any lowercase number, a letter that doesn't have an upper zone loop.
Okay.
Mainly the lower zones are the Y's, the P's, the loops for those, which we kind of cover in the next slide. Normal lower zone, the LZ, is below the level of consciousness. Inborn biological drives and instinctual urges for security and satisfaction and material demands jostle here, with unacknowledged memories and experiences from the first hours of life. In our culture, this is a powerful realm of the drives and sensations and is private. Usually, if the Y's and the G's are really outrageous and have lots of loops and stuff like that, more outrageous they are in the bedroom. Yeah. So if you see really wild Y's and G's,
I gotta go check my Y's and G's now. Okay.
So, and we don't see that here.
We don't see that. Okay. All right, good.
Yeah, we're pretty safe.
Okay. We'll move on here. Faster than average or speedy writing?
Do you want to take this one?
Sure. Faster than average or speedy writing has a smooth, flowing, and simplified look. The graphologist finds writing vital to understanding the writer's personality. It shows quick, mature, and intelligent simplification of letter forms. The natural, open individual will write with a time-saving simplicity with grace. Speed gives impetus to the individualization of letter forms as the writer unconsciously creates his own smooth shortcuts. Such forms can be highly original. Let's look at this.
And it's just mainly for him, it was just partial cursive and print writing.
Okay.
I don't think he created his own code at all with abbreviations. And
looking at this writing here, do you think this is something that kind of that he scribbled down, or do you think that this is something that he took more time with? Is that something we can guess on?
Noting the things that he marked out and then wrote on top, it looks like he was thinking through the situation, the scene, this particular sample that there's other samples throughout that notebook where you'll definitely see speed writing.
Okay.
And this was just easy to grab. I mean, all of his showed fast writing.
Even when he was kind of more taking his time. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now we're going to look at the next one. Heavy pressure. This person can make an impression. There is a great deal of energy available to them for their actions. They express in a heavy manner, are strong-willed, firm, and easily excited to hot-blooded actions. Those with forceful pressure can inspire others. And negatively, they can be stern, stubborn, and have bouts with melancholy. You would definitely know when they are around you. Hot-blooded, yeah, strong-willed, heavy manner, stubborn. Bouts of melancholy, kind of, that threw me off a little bit, but that's interesting.
And Camille also had heavy pressure too. So that was an interesting thing. They both had normal upper, lower, and middle zones, and the heavy pressure.
This is one of my favorite pages here.
Things don't.
What's that?
Oh, well, and when I write down the definition, it's coming straight from the book. So this just covers the whole gambit for what they could be having. It doesn't actually mean that this is them to a T.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's important. That's important to note there.
And so now we're on to the sample.
Okay. Yeah.
And
look at that sample a lot.
I think a good example of the heavy writing, or a good way to tell that he had heavy writing, was because the BCA had, in the lab results part of it, they were looking at the pages in between to see what was there, and I guess like the empty pages, to see if he had torn out things, and they could see the imprint from his writing on these other pages.
That's weird. I'm glad that you brought that up, because it was only found on 2 pages, which I thought was kind of strange. You would think that it would be on a lot of other pages too, right? I mean,
that would be consistent.
Yeah, I mean, or I would think that if it was on more than 2 pages, that it would have been noted that it was on more than 2 pages. But the fact that only 2 pages are noted to have heavy writing, I think it's called indented writing. There's a certain term for it, but at page 21 and page 22, I think they were found on. So this is well before David wrote whatever he wrote, but the way that those 2 pages were written and what they found from those was very interesting too. Anyways, getting a little off topic, but
give me 1 second. I'm letting my cat out.
Cats rule. Cats dominate.
Yeah.
Especially cats know when you are live, and for some reason, as soon as you go live, they need to let the world know and let everybody else know too who is really in charge. I want to say hi to everybody who is in our chat room too. I really appreciate everybody coming in, and we are live here. And right now we are going to move on to the next slide, vertical to inclined slant.
Yes. He was mostly vertical, but he did have a right incline. It's just a very slight incline to it. A normal incline. So, let's see here. Vertical, this type has a head over heart emotion attitude. He is open to experience of the moment, but his responses are cautious and considered. Here, emotional expression is under control if it is lost. It is quickly regained. The Incline slant in his writing is considered a normal incline slant. The writer is normally sensitive and emotionally healthy, but modest responses.
Hmm.
Judgment and logic rule, yet more sympathy and compassion are expressed here in the vertical slant. The range of expression is seldom over demonstrated.
Yeah, some of this is kind of how David comes off. I mean, just on the very little that I've seen him, how he responds in videos, how he responds when he's asked questions, and just listening to him, not knowing him personally. This is one of the areas that kind of it really struck a chord with me as far as like, oh, okay, this really does sound like him. This really does sound more like his type of style. But let's
And
let's
it's really
continue on.
interesting because you sit there and you compare the documentary to his live stream, and what they're saying in the documentary doesn't line up with how he's acting in his live streams.
How do you think he's acting in his live streams?
Uh, just more compassionate,
And you think in the documentary
very
he comes off as more crazy?
what they say about him,
Mm.
the friends and family,
Oh, I see.
compared to how he really was in the live streams.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
In the clips that I guess the certain clips that they used. Okay, so which slide are we on?
Okay, so now we're gonna move to let's see, we're looking at the pitch video here, to angular strokes.
Okay. Angular strokes. That are stick figure strokes. I choose both cursive printing and print writing styles as samples from the notebook that contain David's handwriting. Here he eliminates the lead preference with simple downstrokes. This is unless it's a D and sometimes either an H or an L. Most of his other strokes are just loopless, but all his D's have loops, lowercase D's. Here he eliminates the loop and preference for the simple downstrokes. It is an abbreviated stroke and indicates efficiency. Emotions are kept under control and the writer chooses to act rather than react. He opts for directness approach, albeit with certain attitude of calculation. Qualities of maturity and independence are found in this writer as well as the ability to make quick decisions and eliminate unnecessary details. And we go to the pitch video where you'll see the D that does have a loop, but most of these do not. Most of his other letters do not. And those are angular strokes.
Angular strokes, interesting. I'm just gonna go back. Angular. Yeah. So it's like stick figure strokes. That was kind of a little interesting. It's an interesting way to say it, but.
Mhm.
Okay, personal pronoun I means clear, constructive thinking, independent, and has a desire to stand out. Personal pronoun I. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, as he uses the personal pronoun, which the sample was the only one that I could find where he uses the personal pronoun. But there's no loops. He doesn't use it in a lowercase. And so, let's see here.
For the I's here on this,
Mhm.
on the veterans?
Mm-hmm. It's not used as a cursive I. It's just a 6 the crossbars, and so right there means clear constructive thinking and a desire to stand out. That's the type of I that he used. If there was a loop, it would have had a different meaning. If it was lowercase, it would have had a different meaning. If it didn't have the crossbars, that would have been a different meaning altogether, too.
Interesting. Yeah, it sounds very strong. It's very strong words for people here too. Very curious how other people who have served feel about this.
I think you'll like the next slide.
Okay. The majority of O's and A's open at the top. This indicates generosity, frankness, truthfulness, and sincerity, and talkative. Talkative. Is he talkative? I would say yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The interviews. Yeah, he had no trouble public speaking or anything like that.
I have to admire that. I could not get on at a podium or get up there and talk. I'm really bad at debating too. I freeze up.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes, it's I mean, it's definitely a challenge.
I tried to do little highlights for all his open A's and O's.
Mm-hmm. Let's
And
look at those.
you can clearly see it throughout the rest of his samples.
Yeah, it's a lot. This page had a lot of meaning. Okay, lowercase m, upside down V, or shape or spade shape shows a critical and investigative mind which explores and digs for knowledge, always asking questions and seeking answers, an intellectually thirsty person with an eagerness to learn. And let's look at this. Once there's money, you have to pay everyone. But that might not be so bad. No money is best. And you've highlighted the M's. The 3 M's.
Yes, because see that there's like a V in those M's.
Mm-hmm.
Very sharp points, and that's what that means. And you'll notice his lowercase m's are very similar throughout all his writings.
His N's, do they look similar in that? Like everyone, yeah. Everyone, right after might, there's a not. It's pretty sharp. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say that his
me.
ends are very similar. Because I was looking back.
Let's see, Thomas Rice. Yeah. There's the M. Sean Wright. Oh, that's an N right there that you highlighted. That matches Adam Searle, Nate Sermall, Danny Mason, Altman, H.D. Altman. Why does that sound familiar? That name sounds real familiar. Okay, capital M, first hump high, shows social ambition can cause lack tact, i.e. poor taste. Really? Interesting.
Well, another way of putting it is like sarcasm, lack tact, sarcasm. I was going straight from the book on this one, so. And again, he is very, very similar throughout all his writing samples with the M's, the captions.
Yep.
Because he misspelled Wilton when he was writing, I guess, notes for no, and he wrote Wilton instead, and it's very similar with the hump.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let's see. Are we at the I dot?
We are at the I dot.
The I dot, lowercase I, is a mixture of rounded and placed over the stem. Excuse me, a mixture of rounded and placed over the stem and round. Sorry, I didn't see that I had added that twice. This can mean order, method, precision, uh, conscientiousness, good memory, concentration. The high I dot above the stem can mean great imagination and enthusiasm.
Okay. And we'll look at that here. You can see that in the Thomas Rice, Adam Miller, Brian Peterson, Sean Wright.
With Brian Peterson, you'll see that the I dot is a little bit higher. Even though I put a sample here,
Mm-hmm.
I look at all his writing overall. If something doesn't line up if I don't see it more than once or twice, I don't add it, because it could be just something that he was doing just today.
And that's looking at all of his writings, as much writings as you have had access to, which is a lot, by the way. That is a lot.
Yes. From the just all the photos that captured his handwriting and the notebook that they took into evidence. It was just easier to add the notebook part as samples because they were the clearest pictures.
The T-bar. T-bar is one of my favorite ones here. T-bar is the average T-bar. T-bar is an average T-bar with a crossing, which can mean that he is healthy, balanced, calmness, self-control in thought, and in action. Most of David's T-bars will have a slight incline to the right. This is a positive and uplifting trait with optimism, enthusiasm, and ambition. Refer to, quote-unquote, submit to Allah. This can also mean sarcasm mixed with humor. That's interesting that you would say that, or that you would see that, or discuss that, or think about that.
Considering that this was his supposed suicide note, you don't see any signs of depression. You don't see any signs of him in altered state. If anything, he seemed excited, I guess would be the right, I don't know. He seemed happy. If this was supposed to be the suicide note. But Open the Rise, the most recent version, it seemed like he was excited when he wrote this, only because of how his T-bars are and the way that they point up. That he was very optimistic, and I keep saying excited, but that's what you see for that type of T-bar.
That's interesting. And
that he was looking forward. Okay, sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No, it's okay. Because the lower T-bar in the other part seems different, right? That's been a big question. If these were both written by David, and what really sucks is that they probably could have figured that out, and hopefully we still can, but they never even bothered to. So what do you think? Do you think? Yeah, they had the opportunity. Do you think David wrote this? Any of this, right here?
I think he wrote Open the Rise, the most recent version, submit to Alan or Ella, and I don't think that he wrote them out.
I mean, when you look at everything that David wrote on this notepad, this just seems out of place. Both of them. Whether he wrote it or not, it's almost like because investigators didn't take the time to find that out, that it wasn't that relevant to their case.
Yeah.
Even though it was open, the page was open. I don't know. And then where the blood stains are, I'm going to kind of move my cursor because in the black and white it is hard to tell. But here's where some of the blood stains are. Here's where a few more are. So there's definitely fingerprints, and one of these whichever one they tested does turn out to be David's fingerprints. David's fingerprints are on this. That doesn't necessarily mean that he wrote this here. But it also doesn't mean that he didn't. So I'm trying to keep an open mind to whatever it is. But it just seems so out of place with everything else that he's writing. Who writes that to themselves here? It just doesn't line up to me. It doesn't add up.
Now, was a fingerprint in blood, or was it just a fingerprint on the paper?
It was blood. Yeah. No, these are blood prints there.
Okay.
So those there, and on this same page, a little bit lower down, south of this page that we're looking at right now, there was blood there too. There was bloody fingerprints on multiple pages, but this is the only one that they matched to David. It's the only one that they tried, as far as I can see. I don't know. Maybe they didn't. We don't have that, because even though we do have all of the Apple Valley police documents, it's not, we don't necessarily have all of the BCA documents. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I haven't confirmed that we've gotten everything from the Minnesota, the BCA. What's your view on that?
Could you repeat the word again? I was reading.
Do you think
comment.
Do you think we've gotten everything? Yeah, and we'll go through the comments too if there's any there. Do you think we've gotten everything from the Minnesota BCA?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that we've gotten everything we're going to get.
So if they would have tested more than one fingerprint, they would have included that in their documents. They labeled one of these fingerprints and did that one test, and that was it. Even though there's blood on all of these other pages, this is the only one that they really needed to find match David.
Yes, I really think that we are getting everything that we're going to get from.
Let me ask you a
especially because.
Let me ask you a hypothetical question before we move on here and look at some of the comments here. Thanks everybody for joining us too. If the reason why, I'm just speculating here, and I'm open to this, if these fingerprints were put on, let's say after David died, after his hand was missing, you think they would try to put that on the pin too? And it's kind of weird that they were able to match David's fingerprints to this, but really to nothing else. Maybe that's just because it's paper and it's a lot easier to match it to. But I would have liked them to have done a couple fingerprint tests here. Okay, I'm way off target. Let's see. Let's go into the comments here for a second. She says, "I don't think he wrote any," so she doesn't think that David wrote any of the stuff that we're looking at here. So
I think she meant that she didn't believe that he wrote "Open the Rise" most recent version part.
Okay. Let's see. Let me go here. So some of the other things that you've marked here have been on the standby, on the bring them. So all of these T's. So you've really looked at all of these T's. You've really spent a lot of time looking into this. And
I tried to pit a lot of samples for everybody to see. I really wanted them to.
Sorry, I think you cut out there a little bit.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, I really try to show as much of the samples of his handwriting that I could fit in there without taking up all the slides.
That's okay.
Because, I mean, there's like 50 of them.
61 was my count. All right, go on.
Oh, wow. Okay, sorry. I
That's okay.
added extra samples at the end.
Yeah, which is fine. All right, so let's go. W's. W's are rounded at the baseline, meaning poetic and sensitive. Let's see them. Let's see about that with Wayne Johnson. I thought that was Dwayne Johnson, but I don't think so. Okay. Oops, sorry. All right, you're okay. You're fine.
Is it dinner time?
No, she already ate. She's already been outside. She's just rambunctious for some reason. And okay, I can see in these W's. Little poetic guy. And you've highlighted contract here. Okay.
I don't know why that one's in there. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But you'll see that also his V's have a little rounded tip, too.
Yeah, like in
So his
DVDs.
V's and
VOD, yeah. Rebellious K, or the FUK. What is this?
Yes.
Is this from what he wrote or something?
Yes, you'll see that in the middle of a word, if there's a capital K, then that is like a rebellious K or the FUK. Both he and Camille had those.
Interesting. Okay.
And so here we go with a capital K.
Suddenly, let me go back. It's suddenly written large or capitalized. He would not take any kind of BS from others. Nice.
And it's interesting that both he and Camille had it. So they would not take BS from each other. Those fights had to be epic.
Long conversations. Okay. And, same in make, right? Okay. Sandy Hook, that's an interesting one, because that one looks different than the kids, a little bit lower.
Yeah, his K is almost like a greater than sign. It's an extra K.
Okay.
I always get those mixed up. It looks like.
Okay, lowercase d loops. Writer can be sensitive to criticism, touchy, and vulnerable to both criticism and flattery. The bigger the loop, the more this applies. Huh.
Sometimes some writers that have really wide and tall D loops, and most likely they are super duper sensitive. Almost all his D's loop on them, and you'll see that I went crazy with lighting.
Yeah. Yeah, just on the one page here, which is again is a very important page here. These are serious things David's looking at and crossing off and check marking for some reason. Building 7. Even in the B-roll shot list that we're looking at here now, dancing cops. Yeah. It's a very, you're right, his handwriting does kind of almost go like into almost like a cursive, like an anti-cursive type thing or something. Getting a zoom up of the dancing cops. Which is it's a very disturbing image in my head, by the way. Thank you for that. Let's go here. Might not be.
Well, I find it interesting that they had actual dancing cops for the Apple Valley.
And for the Dakota County Sheriff's Office, too. So They were actually rivals at some point. You're laughing, but it's true.
Okay. Moving on.
Moving on to normally. Okay, I'll let you take this next one here.
Let's see. Okay. 1 second. I need for this.
Sure. Normally straight lines.
Okay. Normally straight lines and stable baseline. The writer. Okay. The writer's mind disciplines his emotions. Traits are composure, orderliness, emotional stability, dependability, perseverance. This is also the area in a person's handwriting where Sophia stands out. If there is an unstable or erratic baseline, then that is a tell sign of drug use or intoxication. David had a stable baseline, otherwise known as straight lines, meaning his handwriting does not show signs of drug use or being intoxicated. What I should have written was it does not show drug use or being intoxicated while he was writing notes.
That's important too, because we know how he's been accused of all of these different things, drug use, intoxication, but not, the evidence is just not there, fellas. Okay, so here's a slide related to that. Once there's money, you have to pay everyone, but that might not be so bad. No money is best. Very wise. I'd have to agree.
Let me tell you, at the end of the month, when I have to pay all the bills, I feel the same way that he does.
Maybe he wrote that at the end of the month or something.
Well, it's like you have money and you're so excited. It's like, yay, I got paid. And then a couple hours later, after you do all the bills, you're just like so depressed. That was fast.
It's all over. Sample of an unstable, erratic baseline. Okay, tell us more about this image, because this is not David.
No, it's not. What I did was I took samples from the books that the books that I looked at, and I also took samples off of the internet. And this person was suffering from alcoholism, and we'll see the unstable baseline there, where it just kind of curves, and then it's in a different language.
It's moving like down. It's moving like from left to right and north to south, kind of.
Well, this person was not only suffering from alcoholism, but they were suffering from depression.
Oh boy.
And so when you give a plain piece of paper to somebody who suffers from these symptoms, you will notice that their handwriting goes at a downward slant.
That's kind of weird that the my kind of starts, it's all capital, like my. It's like it's me, it's very self-centered, but I don't know anything about this stuff. But it's very, I don't know, I find handwriting and talks about this, which is just what we're doing. We're just talking about it. It's very fascinating to me.
This is Grover Cleveland's handwriting, and he actually did suffer from alcoholism. And you will see that there's...
It's better than my handwriting, for sure.
Let me figure out why I picked it. Well, not only that he suffered from alcoholism, but it was an interesting sample. You'll see that I do not like this PowerPoint on my phone.
Oh yeah, PowerPoint on the phone looks a lot different.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
And then my phone just freaks out.
Yep, Grover Cleveland, the 22nd U.S. president, in case anybody didn't know there. I don't really know that much about him.
I had to look him. Well, I looked up him so that I could find out if it was true about his handwriting and that he really was an alcoholic. I tried to double check all the sources.
That's interesting. I mean,
And
what does he write about it? Does he talk about his handwriting, or is this just kind of
no, it was just a sample that the
just a
book
sample?
used.
Interesting.
Now, the next one I think you'll find is interesting.
Okay.
This person.
Hey.
Sorry.
Okay, the handwriting of a woman experiencing increased psychological stress and inner unrest.
And you'll see how her pen will lift off the page, like the bottom part of the I. And the A, the beginning of the M for the am, the leap and housewife. I mean, her pen is constantly lifted off the page. You'll see this also for intoxication and for drug usage.
I am a housewife. I live in a house. Interesting. Okay, here is a sample handwriting from a woman suffering from depression. Oh, now we're getting into it. Any of this match, David?
No. You'll also notice that this baseline slants downwards to the right. You don't see that in any of his handwriting samples. Even though he uses it on a lined paper, you still don't see it. You don't see that decrease in size of the letters. Nothing like that.
Marilyn Monroe's handwriting. This is interesting here. Where'd you get this one from?
This is off of the internet, actually. And I thought this would be a really good sample. It was her last letter that she wrote. So you're going to see smudges. You're going to see letters that are not consistent with the pressure. She was impaired while writing this. She was depressed. And it was just a really interesting sample to pay here. You'll see that the pressure varies as she's writing the letter. You'll see some letters are not as heavy written as others.
Oh, yeah.
And then you'll see the smudges.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Well, that's interesting.
A lot of people, when they're impaired in their writing, you'll see that they have smudges in their handwriting.
Yeah, this is an interesting one here. Who's Lee? Do you know the context of this or anything?
The person who is
Her lawyer?
for the next sample, or
no, for the Maryland. Yeah, for Maryland. Just wondering who she's.
no,
She's writing to somebody named Lee. I'm just curious who that is.
There is an article that I'll send you that has the whole context for this letter.
I'd like to check that out.
Okay.
All right, sample of a person's handwriting while on mild tranquilizers. Now we're getting interesting. Mild tranquilizers.
Yes, and you're going to see the T-bars. That is a huge indicator right there.
Let's look at those T-bars.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with the T-bars? I do mine just like that. Maybe I'm on a mild tranquilizer right now, and I just don't know it.
The reason why I put this in here was because of them saying that he was either on pot, mushrooms, and I've never taken either, so I don't know if it's like a mild tranquilizer or if it's a heavy tranquilizer like Thorazine, who knows. But I just was trying to cover all the bases here.
Right. Yeah, break it all down. Give people something to think about, something to look at. Okay,
And the next one,
sample of a person's handwriting while on major tranquilizers. Okay, this is more like my handwriting for sure here. Yeah. No, this is like the handwriting of a child, unfortunately, is what it really looks like.
or grandparent,
Or a grandparent.
like an
Interesting.
elderly grandparent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very interesting. Like a great grandparent. Okay. Yeah, that is disturbing.
Hmm. It's amazing how much medication will affect, well, even your mood will affect your handwriting.
All right, sample of an alcoholic's handwriting. Oh, this has got to be David. This has to match his.
No,
It's got to be
this
just
is
like
not
him.
David's either.
Oh,
You're
darn.
going to see the unstable baseline, how it's wavy. It goes in or up and down and up and down.
Oh, yeah.
This is taken straight from the book that I was using.
I'm just reading it a little bit here. Huh. Remind me never to give you any of my handwriting, okay? Just
Well,
throwing
that
that
was
out
the
there.
interesting thing is that I started looking at other people that were around me and their handwriting. My daughter was signing a contract the other day, and I was like, "Oh, you got the FUK in there." That is not a surprise. And then here is another sample of an alcoholic.
More of a cursive writing alcoholic, maybe.
You'll notice the T-bars. They go down, down. Almost every single one.
Oh, yeah. Look at
goes.
that. Especially this one right here. They're really into this sentence. Boom.
The
Yeah,
T-bar
wow. Look at how as it goes, as it gets worse, or as the sentence progresses, it like goes deeper. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I would never notice anything like that. That's interesting.
And that the T-bar when it goes down like that, that is low self-esteem, poor self-image, depression, all of that.
Well, Pansy says hers goes up. So what does that mean? If the T-bars were going up here, what would that tell us? Any idea?
Enthusiasm, looking forward to the future.
Ah, okay. Something to look forward to.
It's a good thing if your T-bar.
I'm gonna make sure all of mine go up from now on. Just
There you
in
go.
case.
This is Elvis Presley's handwriting.
Wow.
And this signature is from an earlier time compared to near the end, where you can see that you can see that for the 1977 signature, the E is not complete at the top, where his pen keeps leaving the paper. The A's, I mean, you'll see
sad.
lots of breaking.
Ugh.
It really is.
That's really sad.
Yep.
Knowing everything we know about that and what he was on at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't see any of that in David's handwriting. No, you know.
No,
Nothing.
none at all. I mean, you don't see any breaking in his handwriting. It's all very consistent, smooth. You don't see any of that.
How far back with the handwriting have you looked at? I mean, obviously you've looked at the Wells Fargo records, the public records that we were all given. So his handwriting, from what you've looked at, can go all the way back to when he signed his first bank receipt thing, which I think he was probably maybe.
He's a teenager.
Was he really? I think he might have been younger, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I have to go back and look at the date. But the first one that he ever signed, I thought he was like younger, maybe 12 or so, but I don't know. I have to go back and check that out.
He was pretty young at that time.
Virginia Woolf. Go ahead. Finish that thought.
Oh, his handwriting had matured drastically
Yeah, I would
when
hope
he gets
so.
fined.
Yeah. So it was, yeah, there was some chicken scratch going on there, but it's all different now too. Now that everybody's just typing, I wonder, all these people that are growing up just typing away and never writing on paper, their handwriting must be horrible just based on that.
Is there any way that you can enlarge for people to see?
Let me see if I can
Uh,
make this one
there's a
bigger.
reason. I mean, it's a suicide note that was written, but there are certain things in here that I wanted the audience to see.
Let me see. I might need to open this one up separately here. Let me see if I can enlarge this. Whoops, too big. Okay. Okay. Have it enlarged right now. I know
That's
they're.
awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
If you scroll down to about half of the page or the middle, you're going to see the smudges. It's very, very clear in here. And
For some reason it won't let me go. Let's see. Ah, that sucks. See if I can open this up.
well, you're right there.
Is it? Okay. Let me see.
Mm-hmm.
It's just weird that I can't go. How about there? Let me know if that's too far.
That should be fine. Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Awesome. And see this.
Say it again. Phone cut out a little bit.
You'll see the smudge
Oh, the smudge.
in there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple of them.
Yeah,
Now,
see.
I couldn't get the actual story. All I know is that this was her suicide letter. I don't know if she was impaired or not when she wrote this, but I was including it as a sample for a suicide note. Sometimes there's smudges from tears and stuff. I'm not sure that this was the case, but
What's the other thing about these suicides is a lot of these cases that we're looking at is they don't really take their families with them, as far as what I've seen too. It's like there are some cases, but it's kind of usually when somebody is leaving someone else or something. But it just seemed very different to me. Let me go back here.
now this next one is kind of sad because it's a sample of a suicide note, but it's a teenager who wrote it.
Okay.
I picked this sample because it is a classic. It has classic signs of depression, with the slanting downwards. You'll notice the T bars are super long. This person who wrote it, they were very drunk when they wrote it. I'm not saying that because that's what I assume. That is what the website told me.
Okay.
For the backstory. You'll notice the T-bars. And also that the lines, they slant downward.
Trying to see if I can make this. There we go. Zoom doesn't work here. That's Firefox. Let's see. It's probably as big as I can make it there. Yeah, it just makes everything else bigger. Okay, and what is this one? This kind of the one we're looking at right now.
This one is just another sample of a suicide note. I don't have the actual backstory for this one. It was from the book.
Okay. ABB. think that's the last one. Yeah, that's the last one there.
Hmm.
Very interesting. Covered a lot of ground there. It's still, I mean, after doing all of that, what is your final thought on this whole thing?
I'm not saying that he didn't drink. I'm not saying that he didn't use drugs. I just don't think that he ever was writing with a pen and paper when he deceased, because you don't see those signs in his handwriting.
Yeah.
I don't think that he was a habitual user, because it would definitely have shown up in his handwriting.
Why do you think that
I
the
don't
handwriting wasn't that there in the investigation? Why do you think there wasn't more put into the handwriting? I mean, it kind of sounds like you've done more, you've looked at it more than the investigators have, which is kind of sad if that's true. I hope it's not true, but based on the documents that we've seen, not too many people looked at the handwriting. They didn't examine it, but yet it's still tied to David somehow. Magic fairy
I
dust.
my personal opinion, I think that they were looking for him planning the murder suicides,
Hmm.
or the suicide murder thing. I think that they were looking for that. I think that they were looking for an actual suicide note, and that is why they were looking at other pages and imprints on the blank pages.
Hmm.
But nothing showed him planning it, because he didn't do it.
What other conclusion could you come to? It's been the big question here.
You know, I honestly do not think that he wrote that submit to Allah, if that's what it actually is saying. I don't think he wrote it when he was supposedly cracking up. It doesn't line up with a person who's cracking up. And that is why I included these other samples, to show that the different levels of people who were unstable, or who were drunk, or using drugs at the time, you'll see that their handwriting is significantly different. David's was pretty consistent throughout the notebook. The only thing that wasn't consistent was the now. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know why the police didn't look further into it.
Yeah, because I would like some conclusion, some I guess closure, I guess, on uh, who actually wrote that. Because going through these documents and going through everything that we've been given, I don't understand how they conclude that David wrote anything in that house. And I'm talking about any of the three things that were written, the main three things, in three separate rooms. But this is the handwriting here. This would have been a slam dunk to say, okay, we know David wrote this. And the fact that they did not do that is frustrating. And the fact that, they start out, when everything first starts, we're hearing all these rumors and all this stuff of why David did what and everything. Nothing ever pans out. 1 year later, when the case is closed, they didn't know anything more. They actually knew less. You would actually have to take all of that stuff that they were giving us while the investigation was ongoing, throwing all of these little jabs of doubt at us constantly. Well, it could have been this, it could have been that. And one by one, we take those down and say, nope, it can't be because of this. Nope, it can't be because of that. We know actually less. The investigation did not show us who did what, where, when, why, or how. It just showed us what the police did. It showed us what the investigators did and what they didn't do and what else needs to be done. And the question is, my question is, why didn't these things get done? These simple things like David's handwriting, Kamel's handwriting, comparing these things just to make sure, right? Just to make sure that David did write this. What's your view on the comparison as far as what was written on the notepad in David's office room compared to what was written on the blood wall? Can you really compare those two? Is it really fair to compare those two? Are we talking about two separate things there?
We're talking about two separate things because he is, if he did it, he is writing in all caps. It's all print and huge sizes. So I would not be able to compare it with his actual handwriting. If you were to go and on the wall, unless you have very distinct, like felon's clause or a certain way of writing a letter with lots of loops or just like a fancy E, like the Greek E that we saw in the journal page. If I saw that up there, I would have said, oh, whoever wrote the journal page wrote on that wall. Now, if he had that Greek E, and there was an E on that wall that was a Greek E, then I would say, yeah, I'm fairly certain he wrote that. But no.
But you probably wouldn't come out within a couple days, and say, yeah, David wrote this. Friends, all these people that are supposed to be David's friends coming out so quickly saying, yeah, David wrote that. Yeah, that's his handwriting. Okay, maybe it is his handwriting. But it's not signed. You can't put David's hand on that pen. There's just way too much stuff like that just is it's very, very frustrating because it should not be here. We should not even be having this conversation right now. We should be talking about wrestling, or we should be talking about something else. But it's very, very frustrating, and it is Monday morning quarterbacking. On my part, it is like, well, woulda, shoulda, coulda. Yeah, that's all true though. They would've, should've, could've. Why didn't they? And how do we make sure that they don't do this, that something like this never happens to anybody else? We have a good opportunity to try to get future investigators, anybody who wants to be in law enforcement. This is a good test case here. This is a great case that people should learn that, these are things you need to watch out for. These are tests that need to be done in a case like this when the circumstances are so crazy compared with even if you exclude who David was and everything, it's crazy. It's even more crazier. And so they try to justify it by making David look crazy. Well, it's a crazy thing because David was crazy. Well, he wrote 3 places here because he was nuts, because he snapped. And there's just, these documents, the results of the investigation do not support that. They do not support that David Crowley is guilty. And we're going to keep saying that because people need to understand that. The investigators understand that. There's a lot of people that get that. They understand that. But they still want to continue on like David Crowley is guilty. And that's just not true.
Well, that David supposedly wrote this. But that um, WordPress one, I will always love you. Are we certain that he wrote that?
No, no, no. How could you ever prove
Because,
that? And why would you assume that so early on? Go ahead.
well, wrote a photo that she supposedly left in the car
Say it again.
for Sidra. What did she write on the back of the photo that she supposedly left in the car for Sidra?
Something like I will always love you and mom, but it didn't have the dad
Hmm.
involved in it.
I just find it interesting that they left that WordPress note to David.
That it's similar.
Hmm. And the wall, did that have only Kamel's DNA, or was David's DNA also found in that?
There's none of David's DNA on that wall. But again, I mean, they didn't even do a lot of those tests that they, you know,
Hmm.
they had 2 samples and they only tested one of them. So I don't know. I don't understand that either. But
I
that's
really
just the way
wish
they
that
do
they
things.
would have ran all the samples. Darn it.
Yeah, yeah, and
That was a missed opportunity.
well, I mean, is there still time? Is there still time? At least for the ones that they didn't do, at least for the tests that they didn't do, the handwriting examinations that they didn't do. Is there still time to get the case reopened or open? Because it's exceptionally cleared. I don't believe it's closed, but I think there is a difference. So is there still time to do some of those tests, to re-examine some of these things, to really bring closure here? And I think.
They still have
Mhm.
they still have the untested samples.
Mhm.
They still have the handwriting. If we had an attorney, we probably could press to get this. We could test to get it reopened, or press it to get reopened. But we have to seriously think about getting an attorney so that we could make sure that we are being heard,
Right.
make sure that these FOIAs are being filled.
Okay.
I mean, that's my opinion on that. I was really hoping that the private investigator would have found something new. But legally, I think maybe it's time to hire me.
To hire.
An attorney to help us, or
Mhm.
even find one that can help us pro bono.
Yep. I would agree. I think it is time. And I know it's something that some of us have been praying on, and I'm gonna ask people to keep praying about that, and um, whatever we can do to help get justice for this family, for this case, and to make sure that something like this does not happen again. For whatever reason, there are thousands of people out there across this world, across the whole planet, not the country, but the whole world, that are invested in this case, that want to see justice, that are very concerned that something like this could happen to them or someone that they love, someone that has served. And
Yeah.
it's tough.
I really would stress that these videos are not for us just to hear ourselves talk. We're
Right.
here knocking out all the official narrative theories. For instance, that David was an alcoholic or depressed or snapped, that kind of thing. Well, his handwriting doesn't show that. His live streams don't show that. So where is it coming from?
That's a great question. Where is it coming from? it's not coming from a good source. It's not coming from a truthful source because it's not true.
And it's not coming from the police, or they would have wrote it in their summaries.
Right. That would have been something that would have been relevant. And I think in Tom Leiden's, right, the news report that Tom Leiden did, everybody needs to go and look at that. It's if if you thought the sloppumentary was bad, this is worse. You know, this is like, whoa, okay, yeah, there's way more to this story. These people set out to basically just garbage his garbage that he wrote, but it's all in the same thing. And all three of these three things, all of these three people who have done these ridiculous reports, it has only helped people see why there is more to this. Because they're not giving you the answers. They're not giving you closure. They're putting doubt. They're casting doubt, and they are going after David Crowley, and I don't understand why. I really don't.
They're slandering a person who cannot defend themselves.
Why? I mean, what do they gain? What do they really gain?
Why did ABC fake that Syria footage? Or why do they put out news stories that are debunked within hours? Why do they do any of that?
Yeah.
It's sad that there are people out there who take the news at face value, and unfortunately these days, do your own research, because the news is not, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, but they know that people don't have time for that. You know, they don't have time to really look deep into this. They're trusting in people like Tom Leiden. They're trusting in people like that to tell them the truth, to let them come to their own conclusion based on facts. And that's why we've been so focused on just giving people facts, just showing what the facts are. It never about showing, you know, what you know, this is why you should think this. And I would encourage people to stay away from people that try to do that to you, that try to tell you what you should think or why you should think it. If somebody can't give you the facts, the documents, the research, the quotes, all of that, if they have to, you know, tell you what those quotes and research and everything says, I mean, you know, you can't blame them. You got to blame yourself for just not taking that time to look into this. And if you're going to do that, if you're going to be lazy and just believe what certain people say, including us, you know, if you're not going to go and do your own research, you know, people are going to try to fool you. They're going to try to trick you into believing what they think is truth, so that it makes them feel better about what they think.
And don't take my word for it. I had 3 different books that I was following and researching to do this handwriting. Anybody could go out and purchase handwriting or graphology books and do their own comparison. I welcome that. Or if you just take these words and, you know, they say, hey, David's guilty, I have the proof, and I'm not going to show it to you because it's to the family, don't take their word for it. You ask for that proof. So I just needed to put that there.
Yep.
Because there's some people blindly following others because they think that they have the in on what happened.
Right, and that's what I found very strange. Yeah.
Yeah, but these people aren't proving what they're saying. They're not showing anything. There's nothing new. Now, if they actually showed stuff to back up what they were saying, then I would have to seriously take another look at this case.
Sure. But that's why they try to hold on to that, because there is nothing there. There is no proof that David Crowley is guilty, so they have to hold on to like something that it's like secret knowledge. They have to hold on to it so that you don't have it. It's a control thing. And that's a serious thing. When you trick other people, there are consequences for that. There is no reason not to be honest. There's no reason not to be transparent, to be truthful. And if you're going to willingly be untruthful and spread lies, there will be consequences for that. God sees everything, and stuff like that does not go unpunished. So I just, the greatest people that I've found involved in this, including people in our chat room right now, are people that are honestly looking at this. They might have their own views. They might have views that we don't agree with. You know what I mean? But it's how they look at this case. It's what you do that shows your sincerity, shows that you are a real human being that really wants to know what happened here. And there are hundreds, I think thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people who feel like that, who are just like, no, of course not. Of course there's more to this. There is no proof that David's guilty. And I just think it's just getting this case into as many hands as possible. It's definitely, I mean, that's what I've been trying to do, and every person that I talk to about it, and they understand my views on other issues, and they disagree with me on other cases and things like that. But with this one, it's like, yeah, I mean, how can you, how would you ever say that David Crowley is guilty? So for like Eric Nelson, Alec Wilkinson, Tom Lydon, these three people that people trust, that they are looking to them to show them the truth, and when they didn't, that's gotta hurt them. It hurts who they are. It might open up doors in certain circles for these guys. I definitely think that. Maybe those doors were there, and maybe they're part of those, circles. But in the public eye, for the people that really count, for the real human beings, they have failed them. And their acts are very shameful, all three of them, and they know better. That's my biggest problem. These people, these three guys know better. They know better, and I don't know why they have sold out and have looked into this case, have acted like they've looked into this, and didn't know anything about this case, and probably still don't know anything about it. Don't want to look into anything other than the sexy story that they've dreamed up in their wet dreams. Not looking at the real case here. They have big wounds. They have big scars, and they're shameful. Their acts are very shameful. And I hope that one day they understand that, and one day they will see that. All right, I'm off of my rant here.
It's understandable. I really do thank the people in the group for looking into this case, and the people who PM me. I might be a little slow in responding, but I do appreciate honest answers and questions. People who are coming and want to bounce ideas off. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think we've kind of wrapped this up. Unless you have anything else to add here, let's go ahead and shut this down.
Okay. Thank you for joining us tonight.
All right, good peeps. Until we meet again, check back soon. There are some updates that I hope will be coming out soon. So we'll keep you posted with that. And I hope to come back here and do another live show, a live conference call very soon in the near future. Until then, thank you all for joining.